Yeah.
All right. Cool. So I guess we'll get started then. So thank you everyone for joining us today for this unprecedented e-town hall that we are doing in response to COVID-19. The Representative Executive Council, as well as the rest of SAMRU, has been working incredibly hard during this time, not only to provide supports for students, but to be advocating on your behalf. Things are changing quickly and rapidly, so we're trying to keep you up to date as best as possible. But sometimes it's just nice to see everyone face to face. So we all got changed out of our pajamas today to log on to this Zoom call to hopefully talk with some of you folks. And then we also had a Google form that went out last week. And so we've taken the questions from that Google form and we will be addressing them today on this Q&A with the exec. So if you're jumping on this call, you will be muted. Your video will be turned off by our host. We have someone from SAMRU Comms hanging out on the call. If you have questions for us, please make sure to drop them in the chat and we'll be happy to take them and answer them. But with that, we can start with just a quick roundtable of introductions. And since I already have the floor, my name is Shayla Breen. I am the outgoing president for the 2019-2020 rec team. And I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. So if one of the VPs want to go next.
Hi everyone, I'll go next. My name is Kaina Javin. I'm the Vice President Student Affairs for SAMRU, and I use she, her pronouns as well.
Oh, sorry, folks. You should be unmuted.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nate.
Okay. Sorry, we couldn't unmute ourselves there for a second, and my internet was going in and out. I'm Nathan Lawley. I'm the Vice President Academic of SAMRU, and I use he, him pronouns.
And I'm Luke Carls. I'm the Vice President External. I'm the current Vice President External, and I will be returning for the coming 2020-2021 year. And looking forward to that, and happy to be here, and looking forward to answering questions. Thank you.
Awesome. So that's our whole team. We also, as I said, have some people from SAMRU Communications Department on the call who are just filtering through any questions that come in today. But without further ado, we thought what might be nice is if we give each quick portfolio update and let you know what we've been working on from home, because we have been working super hard for you all, and just talk about some of the work that we've been doing in relation to COVID as well. So I can kick it off. It has been an extremely busy time. And while I thought I would be wrapping up my year and starting to really hone in on transition, I've had to do a lot of other work around COVID. So lots of student concerns that are being emailed, answering those, following up, making sure that the information that we're sending out is factual and that we're receiving the right information from the university. I've been taking a lot of student concerns directly to the Mount Royal University President, Tim Rowley, who has been an absolute gem to work with through this COVID experience, I guess. And then also meeting with the VP Finance and Administration of Mount Royal University. On top of that, doing lots of phone calls with other student association presidents across Alberta and Canada to talk about different ways that we can collaborate on advocacy, and also getting some additional feedback on our COVID response from an advocacy standpoint, and looking at what are other institutions doing and how can we make sure that students are being provided with the best support possible during this. So while doing all this and having a lot of conversations and collecting a lot of information, we are wrapping up as a team right now. So working hard on documents and presentations to be able to transition the incoming President Spirit, who is going to be awesome in continuing this work going forward. So just working really, really hard on that transition piece, because we only have 16 working days left in the office, and hand over all this bulk of work in the middle of a global national pandemic, global epidemic. So that's really a lot of conversations, a lot of fact chasing, and a lot of making sure that the information students are getting is transparent and accurate and accountable as well. So I will throw it over to Nathan, the VP Academic.
Hello. Yeah, so much the same as Shayla, I've been working on preparing for transition of the new, or the next Vice President Academic and the entire team, really. Most people will know from the SAMRU blog posts and MRU communications that I've been working on some advocacy points. Couple of them that happened recently were the move of the withdrawal date to the last day of classes, which was yesterday. That was in March. And then more recently, the pass-fail, COVID pass and COVID fail advocacy, which was successful to make it possible for students to make a choice at the end of the semester. There's more Q&A on that later from our Google form, so I won't go on and on. But yeah, that's what I've been working on here in terms of SAMRU. To be very real with all of you, this working from home thing is extremely difficult. I'm working this full-time job. I have 2 courses. I most recently lost my part-time position that I was counting on in the summer for finances. So it's a very stressful situation, sharing bandwidth with 3 roommates who are also doing courses and working online, or 2 roommates and me, 3 people. Oh, there she is, right here in my office, because it's my bedroom. And then also we've been trying to make our cats get along. So we are on day 11 without a cat fight. We have a sign, but they've also been separated in different rooms that whole time. So we're not really sure if it counts, but that's what I've been doing. Lots of work, lots of long days. So I have been getting dressed every day though. I'm very proud of that. So that's a win for me. I don't remember who's after me. Is it Luke? Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, similar to the rest of the execs, we're all working from home, and that's been a significant transition. Yeah, advantages and disadvantages, but obviously the circumstances in which we're working at home are unfortunate. Nevertheless, though, I mean, there's plenty of work for each of us to do, and we've just sort of continued to do that. And on the external side, I'll explain and touch on some things in more detail later, but the main thing has been trying to secure financial aid for students. As Nathan alluded to, there's not just execs here that are either losing employment or won't be able to find employment once they finish their academic year or graduate. So being able to ensure that students have that financial aid has been really the main job of the Vice President External, and keeping track of where things are going. And as an example of some of that work that we've been doing, we've just a couple of days ago now wrapped up Cause Advocacy Week, which was our provincial representation group, where we had conferences much like this through Zoom or other mediums with MLAs, and tried to advocate that and present the problems that students are faced with right now, and ask for different measures to help students financially. So that's been really the main work of the Vice President External right now. And then just a brief update of, I guess, what I was doing. But before COVID hit, we've also been able to secure from the federal government some significant financial benefits, I guess you will. And these are unrelated to COVID, so longer interest rate, longer non-repayment dates for interest rates, more student financial aid, these sorts of things. And that was unrelated to COVID-19, so we were happy to see that. And we're going to keep working on those things in the weeks and months to come, and again, especially related to COVID-19. So I think that's all I have now. I'll definitely answer some questions, provide some more updates later. Thank you.
So I'll go next. Sorry for the poor being. So just around the COVID-19 pandemic, I've been working with the rec team, who's been so great. And I've also had the opportunity as a Board of Governors member, just getting updates and asking questions around what, MRU is doing. And I can tell you that they've been doing a really good job, and just, again, working with this rec team as things change, and things have been changing a lot. So we're on it. Some of the things that I've done is with PSA. The Dating Domestic and Sexual Violence folder has been launched. I started this at the start of my term about 6-7 months ago, so it's finally on the mru.ca/ sexual violence website. You can scroll down, it'll be a tab. You can click that resource as well, and I was working on that, as well as transition for the next VPSA, which is very exciting for me to do, as I have a lot of projects that the next VPSA can work on, and then also they can create their own things. So yeah, just working very hard like everyone else. And yeah, I finally left my house after 3 weeks, which was great. So that was good. Yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you everyone. And thanks to the people that have joined our call. If you have a question, please pop it in the chat. We'll be happy to answer it. But with that, I think we'll start getting into answering some of the questions that we had submitted from our Google form. So these were anonymous questions submitted by students. So we'll jump into the first one here. So the question was, will it impact my GPA if I choose to assign grades for my 3 classes out of 4? And so I'll let Nathan take this one away.
Yes, the next few questions I think are me. Someone has their computer not, their mic not muted, and I can hear myself echoing. Can you all mute? Sorry. Thank you. So yeah. Will it impact my GPA if I choose to assign grades for my 3 classes out of 4? Yes and no. So courses where you opt for a COVID pass will not affect your GPA. So if you're taking letter grades in, I'm going to assume that you're taking letter grades in 3 classes out of 4 and taking a COVID pass for the 4th. In that case, your semester GPA will be based on the 3 letter grade courses. The COVID pass does not affect your GPA positively or negatively. Same with a COVID fail. So if you were to take a COVID fail instead of regular F letter grade, that would also not affect your GPA like an F would normally. You've still failed the class and need to retake it if you want it, but it doesn't affect your GPA in the meantime. And then your cumulative GPA will be based on every course since you started at MRU or since you started your program, and then the 3 letter grades from this semester, and the COVID pass or fail will not affect your GPA at all. I will, and this is going to be a running theme, push that students should always speak to their advisors and their program chairs or their program chair before making a decision like this, and see how, because GPA impacts is not the only impact it'll have, and there's more questions about that later. So definitely speak to some other people and get some advice on those choices you're making. But yeah, 3 classes out of 4, your GPA would be based on the letter grade courses.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan. And I think a really great question that follows, are summer classes going to be online now?
Yes, that wasn't the answer. That was me verifying that I'll answer the question. We don't know yet what summer courses are going to look like. So the July-August semester, the May-June semester, spring semester 2020 will be online. MRU has confirmed that, but there have been no decisions made so far in terms of summer courses in July and August.
Perfect, thank you. And so we'll jump into the next one here. I think there's a theme going in these questions about perhaps being about academics. Surprise, surprise.
This is really just a Q and VPA, you know?
Yeah, Q and VPA. I want to barf. Okay, so from another student, what is the point of having a pass-fail system when it doesn't actually benefit students? ? Why would I take a pass if it doesn't count towards anything and I can't use it if I don't meet class requirements?
Yeah, super legitimate question, something I'm actually getting a lot of emails about right now. So the pass-fail system was brought up because of a decision made by University of Alberta to mandate that all of their courses would be graded on a pass-fail system this semester as a result of the situation everyone's facing. And then the University of Calgary subsequently made a decision to offer a choice. And students were emailing me. I heard from over 300 students about this decision, both in favor and against it for various reasons. The vast majority was for having the choice to opt for a pass or fail that would not affect GPA for this semester. I supported its implementation at General Faculty's Council and spoke in support and voted in support of it, and it did pass. What I heard most from students was a desire for autonomy and to be able to make their own decision based on the information. This situation is largely out of everyone's control, so having something that you can actually do proactively to make a difference in the situation for yourself was very important to several people. To address the question itself of why would I take a pass if it doesn't count towards anything, etc. So the option will really help students who are in desperate circumstances, unable to perform their best this semester or to their usual ability, and would like to have that course grade removed from affecting their GPA. So for example, a student who is in a position where they're going to be failing a course this semester can opt to switch that grade for a COVID fail so that it doesn't affect their GPA in the meantime while they are retaking the course to get a better grade. A student who is used to receiving A's or B's may find themselves in a circumstance where they can only receive a D grade based on the work they're able to do in the circumstances that they're in this semester. And swapping this grade for a COVID pass will also mean that this student's GPA won't be affected in the meantime. And if they choose to do that course again to get a better grade, then that's fine. And in the meantime, their GPA stays consistent at what they're used to. So again, students should definitely talk to advising, talk to their program chairs about making this decision. In my opinion, the biggest concerns for the pass-fail system are for students who are in programs which have minimum grade requirements for graduation. There are several programs that have a minimum 2.0 GPA in all core courses before being allowed to graduate. So they would be affected by this. A COVID pass does not equate to any number in GPA, so it would not count as accomplishing that metric for graduation. Also, students whose courses this semester are serving as prerequisites in the future, if the next course you're taking has a prereq of your current course with a minimum grade requirement, a COVID pass will not qualify you to take that course automatically. You might need to retake it. There's also students who have programs with external accrediting bodies. We don't know and we can't control how these programs will react to the grading changes in Alberta right now. So those students might be in a position where that's not the right choice for them. And also students who are in programs which have a maximum number of attempts per course before being required to withdraw from their program. The biggest example of this is in nursing, where they have 2 attempts at a course. They need to get a minimum grade in order to pass the course and move on. And if they take those 2 attempts and do not successfully accomplish that minimum grade, then they are required to withdraw from the program for 12 months before reapplying for admission. So those students would be negatively affected as well, as a COVID pass cannot equate to a minimum grade. So some of these situations are within MRU's control and my control to advocate on behalf of students in these situations, and several of them are not. For example, the accrediting bodies is not something that we can change very much. We just have to wait and see what they say. And then also graduate institutions, I'm hearing from students now who are looking at applying for grad school either this fall or next year. And we can't control, of course, at MRU how other institutions will be looking at pass-fail grades from this semester. So with all of that in mind, and as we would have seen in the email from MRU when it was first implemented or the next one that had some more clarifying information in it, MRU is strongly encouraging students right now with grades, if they receive a grade of C- or above, to keep their letter grade in order to prevent some of these other consequences from occurring and having to potentially retake a course for a letter grade instead of the COVID pass. So I hope that addresses the question. I'm sorry I kind of rambled on there for a second, but yes, this will not benefit all students. Definitely talk to advising and see, or your program chair, and see if there's something that can be done to help your situation. There are other options available other than the COVID pass fail, which have always existed, that might be available to you. So definitely reach out and see what things you can do if this isn't something that's going to work for you, because it will not work for everybody for sure.
Yeah, here, and I'll just add just 2 seconds. That's a great answer, Nate. I think one thing to just make clear, and I think you did this at the start of your answer, is that nothing is being taken away from students. So while this might not benefit students in some situations, they still have that option of taking that letter grade, and there's no direct harm. So this just added another option for students. And if you don't want to use that option, or that option isn't best for you, it didn't take away or lessen any other options, I guess. So there does, as long as students understand the implications of taking that pass-fail grade, there isn't any downside here. So I think that's the only bit I'll add. Sorry.
Yeah, that was really great. Thank you, Nathan, and thanks for Luke for adding that in. I really appreciate the fulsome answer you've provided here. We're going to jump to the chat for a second because we had a question, and it was to Luke, or otherwise known as VP Carls, very official. The question is, what kind of advocacy is being done externally about COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a great question. Plenty, I guess, and as best as we can from a digital position, I guess, if you will. I'll just sort of start broadly. So our two main avenues to advocate to government are through CAUSE, the Council of Alberta University Students, and CASA, the Canadian Alliance of Students Associations. Those are our provincial and federal larger lobby groups, respectively. And so through those groups, we're really trying to advocate for some of the holes and problems we see with the current COVID-19 response, if you will. So provincially, I mentioned it briefly in my opening statement, but we just last week finished up our advocacy week, where execs like myself and Shayla from across Alberta, or from the five largest universities in Alberta, took calls with MLAs and advocated what students are asking for, and really drew attention to the fact that while some of the steps taken to aid the financial position of students have been greatly appreciated and going a long way to easing our situation, there's still much more that needs to be done, and specifically because some of those income supplement programs don't apply to a large section of students. And so we've been making that clear with the provincial government, trying to have them advocate on our behalf to the federal government, or if they can do something around student financial aid for the coming year, or even supplementing what the federal government's doing. That's really what we've been pushing for. On the federal side, we've been working with CASA to try to have conversations with those key government decision makers to let them know what our specific problem is, because one of the key issues here with COVID-19, as opposed to just regular everyday lobbying to government, is that this is a unique situation. So while a advanced education department might be well aware of the students' desire for more scholarships or bursaries or lower tuition in normal times, what students specifically need right now wouldn't exactly be clear to different levels of government. So it's really our job to be like, hey, here is the situation, here's what's working, here's what's not working, and here's what we need, and bringing that to their attention, and hoping that makes it then into announcements that are made. And a couple of the key wins we've had so far is currently there's no interest being accrued on student loans for the next 6 months. So you have a student loan, that is not going to be getting any worse because you have your inability to work or pay that back, or any additional costs occurred from COVID-19. Several students are eligible for CURB or the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. Some aren't, and we'll get into some of those details later. But that's really what we're trying to do, is working with those two larger advocacy groups to draw attention to some of the issues that students are having, and make it clear why these issues need to be addressed.
Thank you so much, Luke, for your thoughtful and fulsome answer on that one. So we'll hop back into the Q&A questions that were submitted through the Google form. So the next question we're going to hop into is, so I'll read the question out, and then I think I will take a stab at answering this one. So with spring semester potentially going online, what are your thoughts on class prices being reduced? We should pay the full price for face-to-face learning, not for online. It's completely different, especially with a class like stats. So first off, I'd like to say that I'm so sorry you have to take stats. That's a big mood. I actually ended up dropping stats because I found it so difficult, so wishing you all the best in that class. But on a more serious note, tuition for courses at MRU have always been the same, whether they're online or in person, and we've been told that it will remain the same for spring 2020. And I just want to add, as someone that takes quite a few online classes at Mount Royal, that I really trust, and we as a team really trust, that faculty will be as innovative and as thoughtful as they would be in person. No one is winning in this pandemic, and it's really a time where we all have to work together and come together as a community. So as being a student that doesn't like online classes, I'm sure there are tons of faculty that feel the exact same way. And we've heard from some of those faculty that they don't like teaching on the online classes, but they're trying their best. The community is trying their best, and we as students need to continue trying our best as well. We got a note from the Mount Royal Faculty Association President, Melanie Peacock, on Friday, just saying how wonderful students have been in this online learning environment, and just how thoughtful and kind and forgiving for some of these faculty members who have never taught an online class before in their life. So, I just want to say, keep up the good work and keep up that positive energy during this really difficult time. I will add that we as the rec had requested that the recreation and athletics fee be reduced by the university. The request was explored, but ultimately denied. So MRU told us that they won't change the fee because services and supports continue to be offered, and in many cases are increased, including supporting varsity sports and maintaining recreational facilities for when they are available again. So if you have any thoughts about that, please let us know. Please feel free to send me an email at president@samru.ca. But I hope that answered your question all right. Veeps, have anything to add on that one?
I definitely just want to underscore the point that faculty are definitely also facing these issues, and that was something I was impressed with when I was getting student emails about the pass-fail, was that students really do understand that faculty are facing all of these same pressures that we are in many cases. They are not used to teaching online either. This is new for everybody around, and there's lots of acknowledgement of that as well, while we look for ways to make things more equitable and more manageable for students in this weird time that we're having.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we'll jump down to the next question. So the next question we got in the Google form was not COVID related, and it's a little bit funny. I giggled a bit when I read the Google form and I saw this question, because this was the first issue I dealt with when I came into president, and it seems to be the last issue I'm dealing with, minus COVID, so it's really, everything's circular. So the question is there anything you can do to replace the good that canceled the START Lab did? And so for those that don't know, the START Lab was a place that students could go to get technological help. In the fall, the START Lab closed, and SAMRU did investigating into why it was closed and the user rates, and making sure that the outcome of the START Lab continued to be met in other ways for students. MRU told us that the START Lab had low use from students, so instead the funding was redirected to IT services to support students better and more timely. And myself and VP Student Affairs, Kainat Javed, actually did go through all the stats and looked at the common issues that students were having, and the majority of issues that students were having were things like, how do I log on to my MRU? Why isn't Google Docs working for me? How do I print something? And so students can now contact IT services for that support. There is also online, you can find different resources on the MRU website around how do you access different types of services. So while we do note that the START Lab was an awesome resource for students, it just wasn't being utilized in the same way. So the budget that was being put towards the START Lab was then put better towards IT services. IT services is super awesome. Give them a call anytime you need, and they're there to support you at all times. So I will leave that question at that. But what I'm going to do here is we're going to jump over to the chat. So perhaps one of the VPs can answer this one. So will MRU be providing convocation refunds automatically?
Yeah, I know the answer to this one. One of my roommates is graduating this semester, so I know the answer to this one. So yeah, convocation refunds will not be done automatically. They've rescheduled convocation, and I'm also reading this off of the FAC on MRU's website as well, so it is directly from the source. They've postponed the spring 2020 convocation into fall, so we don't know exactly how that looks, if it'll be combined with the usual fall convocation or if it will be its own separate event. We don't know that yet, but it has been postponed. So if you want to get your deposit back for convocation as a refund, you have to send an email to convocation@mtroyal.ca, and they'll facilitate that process for you. I believe that they're holding the deposits and not automatically doing a refund because they've postponed the event and not canceled it. So they would hold your deposit until the fall, and then that would hold your place. And if you want a refund, you can't make it in the fall, or you want to redetermine later if you want to convocate in the fall, then you can send a request to convocation@mtroyal.ca.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan. I think that answered the question. Okay, so we have another question from the chat, and it says, hello from the University of Alberta Students' Union, and I know Akanksha Bhatnagar, the U of A Students' Union president, did jump on and was watching for a little bit, so shout out to our friend Akanksha. So she says, with this crisis being top of mind, I'm sure things are feeling a little stressful, and it's easy to forget all the incredible work the SAMRU executive have done over the year. So first off, it's been great working with all of you from SAMRU, and I wish you all the best for the new folks. That's so nice. If there is time left in this chat, what is one mental health tip you would share with students right now? That is a wholesome, wonderful question. Is there do you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know this is a really hard time just because if you're self-isolating or, in quarantine, it can get really, really lonely. So really prioritize what you want right now. I know school can be very hard and assignments and it's final exam time as well, but just take it day by day, even if you can take an hour, 2 hours doing a hobby that you like, or watching TV or watching Netflix, FaceTime some friends, do Netflix party. It's a lot of fun, but just understand that it's very hard and people understand as well, but take it day by day as much as you can. Do an hour a day, do some exercise or something that you love, and then just keep increasing it. That's what I'd say. And thank you for your message, Akanksha.
Yeah, thanks for everything that you said there, Akanksha. We appreciate it. And yeah, I guess my one mental health tip, and not that I am in any way, shape, or form an expert, and not maybe you shouldn't even be listening to me on this, but for me, it's just trying to stay busy and maintain a bit of a schedule. It's really easy when you're at home and most of your daily events, whether it be classes or other extracurricular activities that have a set time are canceled. It's really easy to just sort of drift and have your schedule or your days be a bit listless. But yeah, trying to have a schedule, making sure you're getting up and going to bed at a regular time, and then from this hour to this hour I'll do work, from this hour to this hour I'll eat, and trying to maintain just some routine there so that things don't get too listless. I've already said that, but I guess that would be the word. So that's just been what I've been trying to do, with perhaps mixed success, but if I have to give something, that would probably be my recommendation.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that's already been said, and thank you, Akanksha, for your message. Very, very sweet. If I could add something, let me think. It would probably be, well, the routine that Luke mentioned has been like instrumental in keeping me able to like function on a day-to-day basis. So like getting up at the same time, getting dressed, having breakfast, then sitting down to do work for this period of time, stopping and having lunch and things like that. Scheduling those things in is important. I would also stress giving yourself some buffer time between things, or as an extra block of just you could do whatever you want. If you need to finish an assignment, you can do that. Or if I'm working on sorting my Pokemon card collection right now. That's my my side hustle at the moment. So, you know, if you need to take some time and just do that for 15 or 20 minutes, then do that. We've been trying here to get out every day. Of course, if you're sick and self-isolating, those measures have changed now, and you're not, it's not recommended that you do go outside and do long walks and don't leave your property, but we are not in this house, so we've been going out on walks, keeping our distance, except from each other, and doing that. It's Pokemon Go walks. I'm sorry, I'm a one-trick pony over here with Pokemon, but you know, it's been very important to get outside at least once a day, if not for an errand like groceries once a week, then just for a regular walk around the block, or we have a park down the road here. So yeah, that's been important in this house anyway.
Those are all great tips. I think for myself, the tip I would give is get up and get dressed. Even if you're just putting on your nice sweatpants, you know, preferably get up and get dressed into what you'd be wearing every day to school or to work, or to go visit family and friends. Comb your hair. If you like to put on a bit of makeup, do that. Brush your teeth. Stick to a normal hygiene regimen, but seriously, get up and get dressed. Is probably the biggest thing to add a bit of normalcy back into your life. And then the other thing I would say is really great advice from my mom is, so shout out to my mom, but is take every day as it comes. It can get really easy to start thinking about and getting anxious about, well, what am I going to do once the semester's over? You know, how am I going to find a job? What's happening? You know, when am I going to see these people? You know, I wanted to travel, all these different things. Take it day by day. You know, yesterday classes ended, tomorrow exams start. So of course, you know, it's very easy to say, oh, don't worry about employment. But there are things in front of you that need to be dealt with now. We do know, speaking about employment, that there is some federal supports coming down the pipe. So yeah, as much as you can, just take it day by day, take it hour by hour, even break it down smaller, set up task lists for you to accomplish things and be able to check them off. And, you know, just take life as it comes right now, because it is, as folks are saying, unprecedented times. There's no point in trying to guess in what the future holds right now, but really just focus on you and your health and what is achievable in the next few moments that you have here. So hope that makes sense. I feel like that was very rambly. But with that, we'll go into another Google form question. And so maybe we'll throw this one at Nathan. So the question is, will spring courses be online?
Yes, I think we already, I kind of lumped this into the summer question, I guess. But yeah, SAMRU has confirmed that spring courses will be occurring online. Professors should be getting in touch with students who are enrolled in those courses pretty soon, if not already. I'm in spring courses actually, and I received an email from one of the profs from that to just explaining how the class will be run, if it's going to be lecture based, then what medium they're using online to do that virtually, because the school is still not open for classes in the spring. So you should be receiving that information. If you haven't already and are feeling anxious, I'm sure you can reach out to those professors and they'll let you know where they're at, or when they'll get back to you on their solution of how they're running their course. But yeah, in the meantime, just be patient. And as Shayla said, you know, we have exams right now. I have a couple exams coming up that I'm preparing for, so trying not to look too far ahead into the future is very helpful. But yes, they will be definitely done online in a virtual environment, and that might look different for every course, depending on the professor.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan. And so just a reminder, folks, if you're just tuning in, you can drop your questions in the chat. We're happy to answer them through there. But I'm going to jump down to another question here. And so this one is for VP Student Affairs, Kainat. And so the question is, what mental health resources are there to access outside of SAMRU right now? And I just want to plug that counseling services is still happening. They're doing webinars every day to support students that you can get involved with, and you can also book phone appointments or video conferencing appointments with counseling services. So please do check out their website. But the question is, what mental health resources are there to access outside of MRU? That question's for Kaina.
So Kids Help Phone is free, it's confidential, and it's 24/7. So you can call 1-800-668-6868. I also looked into the distress center. You can call them as well. However, with that, just a disclaimer, they do have a lot of people calling them right now, texting them. So if you want really immediate direct support, I would just recommend Kids Help Phone, but you can look at other resources around the city as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I know if you head to samru.ca/COVID, there is a whole list of external resources that students can check out. They're a huge agency list of who's operating and how they're operating, not just with mental health resources, but with food insecurity, housing, financial, a whole shebang of a list of agencies there. So please do go check it out. Okay, so we'll go down to another question here. So this one is for Nathan. And so the question is, my professor said that CP, which is, I'm assuming, the pass-fail system.
COVID pass.
Okay, thank you. Said that the COVID pass grade equates to a D. Why haven't students been told this information?
Yes, they have not been told because it's not technically true. I'll explain a little more. So any passing letter grade is eligible for a COVID pass grade. So it doesn't equate to a D. People won't look at it and say, oh, this is a D grade. It doesn't act that way, but it can ultimately mean anything from a D grade up to an A+. Any of those grades can be swapped for a COVID pass if that's your choice to make after considering the consequences and impacts of that, I guess. So once a COVID pass is chosen and confirmed in your record, it's irreversible. You can't go back to the letter grade. That letter grade has been deleted from the server. It doesn't exist anymore, and your grade is the CP or COVID pass for the semester. So that's why someone like your professor might have interpreted it that way, where since it can be anything from a D to an A+, people might look at it and say this person didn't get a grade they liked, so they swapped it out. Those kinds of impacts are not foreseeable, and it will depend on the person. Some people might look at it and understand what the situation was, or you can explain it to them, and others might look at it and say this person got a D. But at the end of the day, it does not equate to a D. It is its own grade, and it just means that you pass the course, you have the credit, and you can move on. Again, unless there's that minimum grade thing for prereqs later on that you need to think about, or your graduation requirements. It just means you did the class, you got the credit, you accomplished the course outcomes, essentially, is what it says.
Perfect. Thank you for that nice holistic answer. And I hope that clears that up for the student that submitted that question. So we are going to jump into another question here from the Google form. And so this question is, I'll throw it at you, Luke, our VP External, because I know you've been doing work on this area. So the question is, what financial support is available for students through government financial aid? Because obviously there's been a lot of things being announced lately. I'm even myself trying to figure it all out, so super valid question. I'll throw that at you, Luke.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go through a few of the supports that are available, but before I do that, I'll just sort of make clear that all of this is still changing quite rapidly. Governments are still trying to adapt and roll out programs as they see what's working, what's not, and trying to fill in different gaps. So by later this afternoon or tomorrow, some of the things I say here could be out of date or updated, or additional supports could be added. So I would encourage those students, if they don't see something that applies to them here, to keep an eye on things as things are changing. So yeah, but getting into it, the first one, and this is probably the largest student or financial aid package that some students have available to them, and I mentioned it briefly before, and that's the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB, to acclimatize it. And what CERB does is, if you have stopped working because of COVID-19, you're eligible for $500 a week for up to 16 weeks. That's fantastic. That helps to provide an income for those people who wouldn't qualify or who wouldn't otherwise qualify for employment insurance. And so quite a few students are likely to be eligible for this program. Now, the main problem with this program is that reasonably, the government doesn't want individuals who had no income prior to COVID-19 to then be able to collect that $500. So you had to have been working and then lost that work. Unfortunately, what that's done is left a lot of students out, essentially, because as we all know, being a student or a full-time student is the work equivalent of a full-time job. You're just not getting paid for it. In fact, you're paying for it. So when the semester ends here, what a lot of students would be expecting is that there would be summer jobs available. I know a lot of students would have already had jobs lined up. Nevertheless, they still would not be eligible for this program because they weren't working and they didn't lose a current job. It doesn't apply to losing future jobs, just current jobs. And so that is really our main advocacy point with the federal government right now, that there is a large hole in their financial response for students, and for students specifically, this didn't. I mentioned earlier that the federal government doesn't want to give money to people who weren't already working, and so that's why students don't get this money. And that's a fair understanding. But again, students aren't working not because they didn't need money, but because they simply couldn't, because they were already putting all their time into school. And so this isn't necessarily, students are in a very different position. And so we're very much looking forward to having that changed. And we're hopeful, as just, I believe it was just yesterday, Trudeau made some comments and acknowledged that some changes are coming. So we're looking forward to that. So keep an eye on that if you are one of those students who would not qualify for that. Moving on. I already mentioned this as well, changes for student loan repayments. Both the government of Canada and the government of Alberta have, as of March 30th, stopped interest accruement for student loans, and you don't need to make payments on those student loans. So that's great news, and we very much appreciate that. And that is very helpful, especially given that a lot of students won't have income and aren't yet covered under CURB. That's a significant benefit. Not just specific to students, the tax filing date has been extended. So if you were owing income tax or owed the Revenue Canada money in some way, you don't now need to pay that until August 31st. And the deadline to actually file your taxes and accomplish that more bureaucratic or administrative task is now June 1st. So that provides both some financial and time relief for not just students, but in this case, since we're speaking about students, it includes students as well. The government of Alberta had been issuing emergency isolation support. That is now closed, so I will leave that off. Utility payment deferrals. This is also coming from the government of Alberta. Residents can defer electricity and natural gas bills for the next 90 days. So if you are a homeowner and a student, which there might not be too many of us, but likely some, that can help provide some relief in the short term as well. And finally, the Canada Child Benefit. Individuals may be eligible to receive $300 more per child than their regular Canada Child Benefit payment. So if you are a student with children, that is certainly a benefit. Now, in addition to those new programs specifically that have come in as a result of the economic crisis surrounding COVID-19, there are several existing programs. And this, I'll mention sort of the top two here for Alberta. These are not the only programs. And so if students have specific cases that they're not covered under this and they need additional financial support, there are several existing programs in place. One of those for the federal government is unemployment insurance. So if you've been working enough hours, and that the number of hours varies per province, and I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head what that is for Alberta. I believe it's 600 hours, but don't quote me on that. you're eligible for employment insurance. So if you've been working a significant amount over the last year, I would encourage you to take a look at that as well. Provincially, emergency financial assistance. This program provides financial assistance for unexpected emergencies, such as unforeseeable circumstances, such as health risks. As a result, that obviously applies to COVID-19. And this is a program that you can go onto the Government of Alberta's website and apply for. Again, this isn't specifically COVID-19 related, but those supports exist nonetheless, as well as income support. This is another program from the Government of Alberta, and this supports individuals and families to pay for basic expenses like food, clothing, and shelter. And again, with incomes dropping so substantially, many individuals could be eligible for this program. But again, because it's not specifically COVID-19 related, those you'll have to sort of go on and apply and check out your unique circumstances to see if you qualify for that. So that really runs through most of the significant or all of the changes as a result of COVID-19 and most of the significant financial aid programs outside of COVID-19, although certainly not all of them. And the last thing I'll say on this is that if you go to samru.ca/COVID-19, you'll see a list of all of the things that I have just talked about, and with links to the different application websites or the most up-to-date information. So yeah, I would encourage you to go take a look at those. These are very serious economic and financial times, probably the likes of which we haven't seen since the Great Depression. So there are significant financial support, and if you need those, or are you eligible at all, I would really encourage you to take a look at those. So that wraps things up. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add something in. One thing that I heard from someone the other day is, well, I don't want to apply for the financial supports because I don't know if I really need it. If you think you need it, and you're concerned about your bills, or you're concerned about buying groceries, like, apply for these things. Like, don't feel guilty about it. They're there for a reason. Use these resources. We are in unprecedented times, as Luke said, really bad economic times. So please access these resources while you can and while they're available. So
yeah, that's a great point, Shayla. And even if you're completely right, even if you don't think you might need these immediately, part of the reason that the government is providing such significant financial support is to help ease the economic strain on the economy, and a lot of these are acting as fiscal stimulus as well. So even if you don't need it, they have made individuals eligible for it, likely for a reason, to get money out the door and have that being spent in the economy and to help try to lessen the extent that Canada's economy or Alberta's economy, whichever government is providing these supports, are negatively impacted. So absolutely, do not feel guilty about taking advantage of these, and yeah, encourage you to do so.
Yeah, and on that note, I know that SAMRU is also doing some care packages for students. So if you go to samru.ca/COVID, you can take a look at the services that are still running at SAMRU online. They also do emergency loans for students. They're being flexible with repayments at this time. So definitely go to SAMRU's website and check out what they have. I also wanted to jump in to say I think I might have smiled while Luke was talking about financial insecurity, which is because I noticed my mother is here. Hi, Mom. So I saw that and smirked, and I didn't want anyone to think I was smirking at government assistance. So that's all.
No, that's awesome. Good point. And I guess just one last thing that I forgot to add, and this one isn't as unanimous, but just like Nathan said, there are a lot of decreased interest rates or more forgiveness on payments that are coming in, whether that is provincial, federal. As an example, most of I think the big 6 banks in Canada cut interest rates on credit cards in half. So again, there's quite a lot of this stuff happening, and I could likely be here all day talking about each province's or each individual company's response to this. So I guess the main thing is there are supports available. Take advantage of those, and if you don't see yourself mentioned in one of these, or you have different circumstances that weren't mentioned, look into things as a lot is changing. So yeah, I think that's all I have on that.
Perfect. All right. So we will jump into our next question here. So we have a question from the chat. And so the question is, my professor has not been very responsive and it's hard to get questions answered about class. Who can I talk to about this? And this is a common issue that we've heard from some students. So I will throw this to Nathan to answer.
Yes, this is definitely common. Hearing a lot from students on this, and I've been pointing them all towards the SAMRU service, the Student Advocacy Resource Center, SARC for short. So if you go to samru.ca/SARC, it should take you to that webpage. And they have their list of services there, their mandate. You can book an appointment. They are doing virtual appointments right now. So that service is available to students who are encountering trouble at any time during the semester. It's always available, but at this time I know that they're very busy hearing from students in the exact same position. Professors aren't getting back to them, or they are just ghosting, for lack of a better word, and this can be due to a number of reasons, including that professors are going through some of the same awful circumstances that everyone else is right now. But SARC can definitely help you out in that scenario to give you the tools to self-advocate, to approach those professors and tell you some of the processes that you can explore through SAMRU policy, or through MRU policy, pardon me, in order to get the responses you need to be successful in your courses this semester and going forward as well.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we have one more question here on the Google form that we'll get to, and then we'll start to wrap things up here. So the question is, will we be receiving some sort of refund for our winter tuition as everything has been moved to online material? And so I'll take this one if that's okay with everyone. So every university in Alberta operates under the Government of Alberta Ministry of Advanced Education and had to transition to alternative delivery formats at the direction of that ministry and the Alberta Chief Medical Officer of Health. Shout out to Dr. Hinshaw, amazing. Go watch her updates every day at 3:30, very calming. So it's important to note that no university had the choice to remain open for in-person courses. And this was not a choice that Mount Royal made. This was not a choice that any other university in Alberta made. This was a choice that the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Advanced Education made. So many decisions seemingly being made by the university are actually directives from higher authorities in the provincial government. So I've been hearing from some folks, why is Mount Royal acting slower? Why didn't Mount Royal close sooner? That was not a choice that Mount Royal made. That was a choice that the Chief Medical Officer and Advanced Education made. So we have already received 10 out of 13 total weeks of in-person instruction when alternative delivery was enforced. And so I just want to reiterate on something I've been saying before, is nothing about the situation is fair. And we're doing our best here at SAMRU to ensure that MRU attempts to alleviate stressors for students as effectively and equitably as possible. So a full or partial refund on tuition costs is not possible this far past the add drop date, which was January 15th. And the money made from tuition was factored into the university's operating budget in May 2019. And so that money is now spent. I think another myth that is out there right now that I just want to debunk is that the university has a ton of money and is just reaping the benefits from that student tuition dollars, and that's just not true. You know, kind of I boasted on the Board of Governors, we both see the financial statements, we know what's happening there. So this idea that they can just pull from that savings account and just give students their tuition money back is not true. Especially with the recent provincial budget cuts that we've seen. And that was a huge loss to the operating grants of the university. So just a little tidbit there I want to just throw out there. So no on the winter refunds for tuition at this time or in the future for 2020. It's just not happening. There we go. I'm not even gonna leave room for it. It's just not happening. So I hope that gives a bit of context and understanding of what's happening here. So it looks like we have no more questions from the chat. I'm all out of Google Form questions. It's 1:30, so I just want to wrap up and say thank you everyone who tuned in today. Thank you to everyone who is watching this online afterwards. I hope we were able to help alleviate a bit of stress today and answer some of these questions. that you've been thinking about or that have been on your mind, I really just ask you and implore you to go check out samru.ca/COVID to look out for more resources or answers to questions or updates on the advocacy. Please head to the mountroyal.ca website. They have all updated Q&A. It's being updated basically daily at this point for your COVID answers, and it's where you're going to find the most accurate and up-to-date information on what is happening for credit students. So I want to give a big shout out to the Representation Executive Council, to both Kainat, Nathan, and Luke. You all have been working so hard during this absolute crisis, and I think when all of us ran for this election, none of us expected to end our terms off on the note of a pandemic. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work in putting students' interests first and continuing to work so hard. And so, yeah, we'll just end it there. Do any of the VEEPs have final comments or remarks? But I will plug one more thing before I stop talking. If you liked this today, if you liked what we did with this Q&A format, please, please, please let us know. It'll help make our decision if we should run one of these again next week or in the coming weeks at all. If you have questions, comments, concerns, advocacy you want done on your behalf, please, please, please send us all an email. We'll leave our emails in the comments, or you can always head to samru.ca to find our contact information there. We want to hear from you. We're here for you. We're working for you. We're here to support you. So please let us know. Anyways, yeah, I'll yield my time. Go ahead, Beeps, for closing comments.
My only closing comment was to bring the cat. Oh, she's mad. That's okay. Our emails are in the chat right now also. I don't know if that was said, but they're putting our emails in the chat so you can just copy and paste.
Kainat, Luke, any closing comments?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the students who tuned in. Thank you to this rec team. I think this went really well. Like, these questions were questions that I also had, and I'm so glad that we got all your questions answered. And yeah, thank you for sending them in.
Yeah, same thing. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, please reach out with any additional questions, and we'll do our best to respond and help out and advocate where we can. So thank you.
Yeah, so stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands. Don't leave your house. Don't go see your friends. Study hard, but also take time to take care of yourself. This is a really weird, unprecedented time for everyone. So please put yourself first and your health first. And just know that we're here for you and we really care about you. So thanks everyone again for tuning in, and we look forward to chatting with you soon.